Grand Risings. Today is Tuesday, March 1st, and this is your Shekinah Wisdom Podcast. Today, my lovelies, I want to talk to you about taking accountability for one's actions. That is the most important thing that you could do on this planet, right? Because you are your best keeper. And I know in this lifetime, people have been ridiculed for sharing their mistakes and things like that. But if you share them in a way that empowers you, and rather than destroy you, you can be great. One thing that I've always learned to do is always investigate for myself, because things aren't always what they seem. I can tell you in an event in one way, and someone else can tell you an event in another way. But at the end of the day, you won't know until you bring things to a head. You can do this with like he said, she said scenarios, right? When you bring all parties to a head, that takes away that doubt. And that is what I do when I'm hearing something that I'm not, that doesn't fit in what I know to be. And there's a discrepancy in what I'm hearing. What I do is I investigate for myself and I bring those parties together that were involved in that scenario. And then you'll be able to see the whole picture of what really occurred. And then when you find out what really occurred, then you look at the scenario and like, all right, well, what else would have occurred in that event? When we lack accountability and we tell stories, right? We only tell stories where we are the victor. So take that with everything that you read and look at, right? Always check the source. Don't take things on face value. And also, when you are able to stand in your truth and speak in your truth, even if it's to share a lesson that you've learned from the experience, because that's what life is about, right? Learning experiences. And when you share those experiences, then you're able to transcend those. We are here to evolve one another, and we can't evolve one another if we are constantly ridiculing one another, especially without our own investigation without doing investigation for ourselves. And that's with everything that you encounter. I want you to think about that. There's been situations that I've been in and I didn't fully investigate, and it didn't have the optimal results. But how did I find out was when you bring all the parties together and then you look at the full picture and you listen, and then you watch people's movements and how they move on a day-to-day basis. I make comparisons, and I do a lot of things to go into the decisions of, even without using my abilities, right? And my intuition and things like that. Just looking at things for what is being presented to you. Because life always shows you what you need to know if you truly look and don't overlook the things that you need to see. A lot of times we see what we want to see in a situation, right? Because of how it makes us feel in a moment. But then you have to think about the overall picture. Like, how does this fit in the grand scheme of my life? Is this going to grow both of us, or is it going to destroy us? And when you observe things from that angle, then you start making decisions, not just only heart-centered decisions where you bring your mind and your heart and your soul into them. And you realize you have a life path to walk. And if somebody's going to take you off of that life path that you're walking, then obviously that's not the path you should be taking. And that's when a lot of self-work comes in, self-introspection. When you delve deep within yourself and you are able to uncover that part of you that you hide from everybody, that is what you should be doing. Because that's what sets you aside from everyone else. Ignore ridicule, right? Because those are people that are afraid to stand in their own truth. But you can't let them hinder you from where you're going. Just because they're afraid, don't allow them to instill their fear onto you. You continue to be great. They knew you were great. And they're just upset that they cannot walk on a journey with you. So there's going to be people who throw mud and do whatever you do. But ignore that. I've dealt with that my whole entire life. So that's how I have learned to develop a thicker skin in that regard and how to walk in my truth. It didn't happen overnight. It's not something you're just like, yeah, I'm going to listen to this podcast and then, yeah, that's what I'm going to do the next day. No, it takes a lot of trial and error, and there's people that have thrown in your life to see if you learned your lesson or if you're still on that same path that you were on of destruction, of not knowing your worth, of not knowing your value. But when you know your worth and you know your value, that's when the one that was being chosen decides to be the chooser. And like, no, just because you choose me, I don't have to choose you back. And that's okay. You don't have to be with somebody that you are not aligned with. And if you know that there's a lot of things and that is not working out, obviously you're not aligned with that individual. Because they will show you if you are or not. If their vibration causes you to drop and rather than help grow you, then you know that individual isn't the one for you. No matter how good the interaction may feel. Because a lot of things can feel good, but don't have optimal results at the end. That's how people end up overdosing. Because you don't know your limit. You don't realize what your boundaries are. And that's what I want you to think about today. Because in me not knowing my boundaries, it took my life on a downward spiral. Because I cared more about people than I cared about myself. And when you show up that way, the people that don't truly care about themselves, because, you have to care about them because they don't care about themselves, will show you how much they don't care about you and themselves. You can't become an enabler in those situations. Because people get an inflated sense of self. Just approach things on a realistic level where you are being you in all situations, where you can go to sleep at night and know that you did not intentionally try to harm anybody, that you did what you could do to evolve yourself and others in the process. That peaceful sleep. When you could go to sleep peacefully, knowing that you have contributed in a reciprocal fashion, where you wasn't an oppressor or a taker in life, where you understood the balance, that's when you can start saying, like, I'm beginning to arrive at where I need to be. We are all we have. And once we realize that, we'll stop with all of this tearing people down so people won't see our insecurities and our mistakes. Because anybody that tears people down, that's what the first thing that comes to my mind. That person is dealing with a lot of insecurities. Because when you're confident, you don't even have time to talk about people in that fashion unless you're lifting them up and showing them how to walk properly. We can't laugh. Like, when you laugh at people's misfortunes, guess who's going to get the next humbling life lesson? You. It happens every time. It happened to me before. So it's like, I know it to be true. It happened to me more than once. But this is why I share my mistakes with you. So you don't have to make the same mistakes, and your children don't have to make the same mistakes, and we can evolve together. I don't feel no kind of way about mistakes I've made in the past. Why? Because I learned from each and every one of them. That's how you get the lead out of the paint. And as we move forward and evolve together, right? The lead that we're getting out, I don't want anyone picking it up and like, oh, look how much lead you had. That's not what we're here for. We're here just to get rid of it together so we could all live a healthy life. And if you're saying that, that means you're ill yourself and you have a lot of self-work to do. You should not ever look down on someone else. Because guess what? The moment you do, you will meet that same fate. So you could see how not funny it really is. All right, my lovelies, I want you to think about this on this Testimonial Tuesday. And think about occurrences in your life where this occurred. And make changes that's going to bring out the highest good of yourself and others at the same time. If you need further help, you can head over to ShekinahWisdom.com. You can book an appointment. If you want art therapy, you can head over to IAMUcollection.com. And if you simply want to support the work we do here, you can cash out Unearthing the Truth. All right, my lovelies, you have a wonderful, amazing, transformational Tuesday.